UFC Fight Night Vegas 49, Makhachev versus Green takes place in only a couple of hours, and I'm going to break down my last-minute detailed predictions for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event. I'm not just saying who I believe is going to win. I did that earlier this week. I'm trying to call how every single fight is going to go start to finish, what limb is going to be used for a KO blow, what submission will be achieved for a submission victory, and what the scorecards are going to be in a decision win, or even if there's going to be a draw. And I'm also going to try and call how every single fight is going to go, every minute of the fight, until it's over. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Victor Altimirano versus Carlos Hernandez. I'm going to go with Victor Altimirano by decision. 29-28. I believe he'll get this fight done as the fight goes on. I can see Carlos Hernandez definitely winning the first round here, so I'm going to say 29-28. Last two rounds, Altimirano wins those two. I think Hernandez is going to be getting the better of the grappling exchanges maybe, but I don't think he's going to do too much damage from those positions. I can definitely see Altimirano maybe having some moments on his back where he lands a couple of elbows, cuts open Carlos Hernandez. I do believe that Carlos Hernandez in the first round is going to be even on the feet with Victor. Eventually get a takedown towards the end of the round, land some total strikes. Victor is going to be landing some elbows back. He's going to keep Carlos Hernandez working, maybe scramble a couple of times on the ground before eventually being held down at the end of the first round. So I think it's going to be an even stand-up fight early on. Hernandez landing some good headshots. Altimirano going to the body and legs a bit more as well, investing a little bit more in that first round. Hernandez gets a takedown, secures the first round. Second round happens, same situation again. Altimirano's the one who's doing the more damage on the feet. He's landing some decent shots to the body and legs, whereas Carlos Hernandez is headhunting a little bit, landing some good shots to the head, eventually getting his takedowns, but this time in the second round, there's going to be a bit more resistance. Altimirano's going to be landing some Travis Brown elbows. When they go to the ground, Altimirano's going to have a couple of submission attempts with an armbar off of his back or something like that, land a couple of elbows off of his back, work his way back up to his feet, and do quite good towards the end of the second round to make sure that he can secure a very close second round for himself. Then the third round comes around. All of the body work and investment work that Altimirano's been doing is going to start to add up, and Hernandez is going to start to slow down, and we're going to see a bit of a dominant third round from Altimirano where he just pieces apart Hernandez on the feet. The first 2 minutes of the third round is going to be quite competitive, but as the round goes on, I think Altimirano's going to start working him, start breaking him down, and I reckon he'll score the third round for himself, and I think it's going to be a 29-28 decision based on the last two rounds for Victor Altimirano, scrambling and stuffing more of the takedowns in the third to work his way back up to his feet a bit more. Moving on up the card, Ramiz Brahimaj versus Michael Gillmore. I'm going to go with Ramiz Brahimaj here, and I'm going to go with him by first round rear naked choke. I can see a very patient beginning. I think both guys are going to land a couple of decent shots on the feet. Maybe Gillmore shoots a takedown, doesn't get the takedown on Ramiz Brahimaj. They separate. Brahimaj maybe lands a knee on the break or something like that and a couple of decent shots. Then they go back to trading some single shots on the feet for the next few minutes. Gillmore's behind on the points. He goes in for an exchange. Ramiz times a beautiful double leg, pins him to the mat. Gillmore tries to get back up, turns his back. Ramiz takes the back, puts the rear naked choke in. And I can see like a rear naked choke towards like the midway point of the first round from Ramiz Brahimaj here. I reckon that's how he gets it done, but it's going to be a very interesting matchup as long as it lasts. Let's move on up the card to another one, which is Alejandro Perez versus Jonathan Martinez. I'm scoring a 30-26 for Jonathan Martinez here. I think he's going to beat Alejandro Perez on the feet in the first round with enough of an advantage to where even if Alejandro Perez does get a takedown at the end of the first and maybe some control time, he's not going to win that round based on that. I think the damage will still be in favor of Jonathan Martinez, winning on the feet at range by landing the better shots in a striking department. Round two, Alejandro Perez is still going to maybe get takedowns towards the end of round two, but Martinez is going to work his way back up. He's also going to be outlanding Perez on the feet in the early part of that second round as well, just winning himself the first two rounds very closely. And I think as the third round happens, it's going to be a bit more dominant, and I'm going to say that there's going to be a 30-26 for Jonathan Martinez. I can definitely see him dropping Alejandro Perez on multiple occasions in that third round, landing a bunch more shots because Perez has failed a couple of takedowns early on, or he's just being out-hustled and out-damaged in the first two rounds. So I think Perez is going to be a shell of himself in the third, and Martinez is going to do really good and score himself a third round by 10-8, and I think it's going to be a 30-26 unanimous decision. Maybe one of the scorecards still says 30-27 or something like that, but I'm going to go 30-26 Jonathan Martinez. Moving on up the card, Terrance McKinney versus Ziam. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Terrance McKinney via... How am I going to go with Terrance McKinney is the big question here. I'm going to go with Terrance McKinney via decision again. I think this is going to be a decision. I think both guys are going to have a hell of a fight. I think it's going to be a very entertaining matchup. Quite patient in certain moments, but they're going to show a lot of skill. I just believe Terrance McKinney is going to land shots that knock down for Ziam in certain rounds, maybe the first and second round here. Ziam might have a good third because he's a bigger guy. He's a bit more physical out there. So I think he might have a good third round here, but I can see in the first 2 rounds of this fight, maybe both things being a bit even. Ziam doing a little bit better. Maybe just out leg kicking Terrance McKinney at range or something like that. Both guys stuffing a couple of takedowns, working on each other against a clinch. I believe at the end of the first round, Terrance McKinney's going to land a big shot on for Ziam. When it comes to that point at the end of these close rounds in the first 2, where both guys are looking to make a statement to make sure that they win that round in the judge's eyes, I think McKinney's a little bit faster, and if they get into a pocket exchange, I think McKinney's going to drop him in the first, drop him in the second. Ziam might win the majority of the fight and also the third round, but I'm going to say 29-28 Terrance McKinney based on knockdowns in the first 2 rounds. Moving on up the card, Josiane Nunes versus Ramona Pascual. I'm going to go with Josiane Nunes. This thing, I'm going to say that she destroys Ramona Pascual in the first round by TKO, goes straight at her, swinging bombs, drops her within the first minute of the fight with a big hook, lands it clean on the chin of Ramona. Ramona works her way back up, gets dropped again afterwards really badly. She's on the ground. Josiane Nunes following up shots against the cage with some big ground and pound shots, and Ramona Pascual's done in the first round. Under 2 minutes, I'm going to go with for Josiane Nunes in the first round. Moving on up the card, Rong versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm going to go with Ignacio Bahamondes via front kick to the body in the third round is what I'm going to go with. He's a lot taller. Rong had a bad weight cut, and I think Ignacio Bahamondes has better cardio anyway. So I'm going to say that it's going to be a very entertaining fight early on. A war early on. Both guys landing amazing shots on each other, in the pocket, non-stop. Amazing fight. Very much like Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. Ignacio Bahamondes maybe investing a bit more, whereas Rong might go for the power shots on the feet to the head. Maybe Ignacio gets rocked at one point, but bounces back and starts doing quite good against Rong. In the first round, I'm going to say it edges the direction of Rong maybe, because of the moment where Ignacio might get rocked for a little bit. Round 2, I think Ignacio's going to start wearing down on Rong, get a takedown, start landing some knees to the body as Rong's working his way back up to his feet, start beating him up a little bit more in the clinch, and also beating him up at range as well. Rong still landing big shots, but they're not having the same effect on Ignacio as they were in the third round, and Ignacio's starting to break him down. Then the third round occurs, Rong's looking pretty gassed, he's not looking too good on the stall, comes out into the third round. Ignacio's landing front kicks to the body, good shots with knees in the clinch as well, and some good shots on the feet. Eventually in the third round, I believe around the midway point, I can see Ignacio Bahamondes. I just internally burped there and just reabsorbed it. That was disgusting. I'm going to go with Ignacio Bahamondes landing a very brutal front kick to the stomach on Rong against the cage. Down goes Rong. Ugh, he's already gassed. He's already beaten up. Down he goes in the third round, and Bahamondes finishes him off by TKO in the third. Moving on up the card to another amazing fight, which is Arman Petrosyan versus Gregory Rodrigues. I'm going to go with Arman Petrosyan via first round KO here. I think Gregory Rodrigues is going to be winning this fight for the majority of it. I think he's going to take the back of Arman Petrosyan in like a body lock fashion. I don't think he's going to have 2 hooks in or anything like that. And Petrosyan's going to be fighting 2-on-1, trying to work his way back up to his feet. Gregory Rodrigues being very dominant in good positions, landing a couple of good shots in those positions as well. Petrosyan works his way back up to his feet against a cage. Gregory Rodrigues doing stuff like kneeing the thigh of Petrosyan and stuff like that. And then whenever Petrosyan separates and manages to break the hands, I think they're going to be swinging back and forth. Rodrigues lands a good shot, but then he goes for it, and then Petrosyan lands a good shot back, and Rodrigues is a little wobbled, and then Rodrigues lands more shots back, and then Petrosyan looks to close in for a finish around the midway point of round 1, and Rodrigues shoots a good takedown, gets him down, puts maybe a hook in on the back, and you've got to see Petrosyan maybe fight out of that bad position, work his way back up against the cage, on one knee, back up to his feet. Rodrigues trying to keep the clinch. Then Petrosyan breaks the grip again, tucks his elbow, gets an underhook, circles out, lands a good knee, maybe an elbow in the clinch. Both guys are swinging again. Rodrigues lands big, has a bit of a moment, starts coming forward. Then again, Petrosyan lands big on Rodrigues. This time, puts him against a cage. When Rodrigues tries to shoot the takedown, he runs straight into a head kick off Arman Petrosyan, and I think he'll get the job done by first round TKO in a crazy firefight in a one-rounder. Moving on up the card, Arman Tsarukyan versus Yoel Alvarez. I'm going to go with Joel Alvarez here. And I think I'm going to pick him by first round guillotine choke over Arman Tsarukyan. I believe it's going to be a very interesting fight early on. Both guys are going to be patient. I think Joel Alvarez is going to land a lot of calf kicks early from range, a lot of jabs as well on Arman Tsarukyan. Then I believe Arman Tsarukyan is going to start landing some big hooks over the top and sort of test the chin of Joel Alvarez. But I think Joel Alvarez's chin is going to live up to some standards, and I think he's going to do quite well in taking those shots from Arman. But Arman's going to start landing some big hooks over the top, just like Thiago Moises did. And I think this sort of approach from Arman, where he's landing those big shots over the top, is going to sort of make him not really want to grapple with Joel Alvarez early. And I don't think he's going to want to grapple early on with Joel Alvarez anyway. So I do see a stand-up exchange happening for the first part of the first round, where maybe Arman's waiting for things to get a little bit more slippery, Joel Alvarez to slow down a little bit before he actually goes for any of his takedowns in the second and third. But I don't think it's even going to get to the second and third. I think Joel Alvarez is going to piece him up, land some big shots on him. Even if Arman's blocking the shots, I think it's just going to be heat coming from Joel Alvarez. Big kicks to the arms as he's trying to block the head kicks and stuff like that. Big elbows as well. Some really nice uppercuts. Some good knees as Arman tries to close in for a clinch. And then it sort of like discourages him from going for the clinch or something like that. Or discourages him from going for a takedown. Then I believe Arman Tsarukyan eventually is going to get cracked by a good shot from Joel Alvarez, like a straight right hand or something like that. Then Joel Alvarez is going to be looking to pressure, lands an elbow, lands a good knee again. Arman shoots a real takedown this time off of the knee of Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez is ready for it, brings his hips back, gets the guillotine, pulls it well, and gets it on Arman Tsarukyan, who's partially concussed in the first round. I'm going to call a first round guillotine choke for Joel Alvarez. We'll see how it goes. Moving on up the card, Jeon Kim versus Priscila Chachoeira. I'm going to go with a fun 3-round bout where Jeon Kim wins the majority of it, and I think she's going to out-volume every single round Priscila Chachoeira. Chachoeira might land the bigger shots, but I think overall the reach advantage of Jeon Kim's going to come into effect, and she's going to land more 1-2s and more jabs than Priscila Chachoeira, and just edge out every single round on the feet in a very fun fight while it lasts with a lot of volume. 30-27 Jeon Kim just picking apart Priscila Chachoeira for 3 rounds and landing like 30-20, even if Chachoeira might be landing some of the better shots. I'm going to go with Jeon Kim 30-27. Moving on up the card, Misha Cirkunov versus Wellington Turman. I'm going to go with Misha Cirkunov here, and I'm going to go with Misha Cirkunov via decision win 29-28. I think he's going to win this fight in a very boring grappling match. No idea why they put this as the co-main event. I guess it's to try and make Makhachev Green seem entertaining in comparison, because if I had to bet a fight that's not going to be too entertaining, it's Cirkunov versus Wellington Turman. No idea why they're in the co-main event over Arman Tsarukyan versus Joel Alvarez, but whatever. I guess they want to make sure that the main event gets all the spotlight and the co-main doesn't steal any of the attention, but I have no idea why they do that. It's stupid as fuck. But Misha Cirkunov, Wellington Turman. I think Misha Cirkunov's going to get takedowns, end up on top, half guard, landing total strikes. They're going to be hustling against the cage for a while as well, maybe before he gets those takedowns. Both working against the cage before Misha maybe goes for like an inside trip, ends up on top as a bigger man, looking for an arm triangle, can't quite find it, lands total strikes, round 1 over. Round 2, similar thing, patient on the feet early for the first minute or two, then they're clinching up against the cage, then Misha gets like another sweep or a trip, ends up on top, lands some decent shots, but now you can see he's starting to slow down. He's the more muscle-bound guy, so I think he's going to win the second round, and then Wellington Turman's going to start winning the third in a close clinch exchange against the cage that's not going to be entertaining, and I think it's going to be a 29-28 Misha Cirkunov decision win. Moving on to the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Bobby Green, the moment you've been waiting for. I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev via second round rear naked choke. At the end of the second round is what I'm going to go for. I believe Bobby Green is going to be very patient early on. I don't think he's going to be really aggressive. I really don't. He's been talking like he's going to be aggressive. I don't think he's going to be. I think Makhachev's going to be very patient moving backwards. I think he's going to be looking to chop the legs of Bobby Green, go to the body with a kick or something like that, just to get some respect and like pin the arms to the body of Bobby Green to make sure that there's always something that he has to watch out for. Makhachev might go for a head kick, maybe throw some heat early on with the hands just to get some respect from Bobby Green again, as I said. And then Bobby Green's maybe going to start landing some decent shots, a good 1-2, a good straight right hand, a decent jab as he's moving away, and he's starting to feel himself. He's starting to talk to Islam Makhachev a little bit, starting to land some more jabs, and he's going to start piecing up Makhachev a bit for like about 30 seconds at one point past the first minute of the first round. Makhachev's not going to like this. He's going to land a big shot on Bobby Green. Underneath that, he's going to shoot a double leg. Bobby Green's going to sprawl this double leg takedown, try and reverse it, but Makhachev's going to keep his hands together and push Bobby Green against the cage, keep him against the cage, land some good knees to defy, lands some good body shots as well. He's got a body lock on Bobby Green against the cage. Green's trying to fight for underhooks. When he goes for the underhooks, I think Makhachev's going to get like a little sweep on him, put him down against the cage, but Bobby Green's like still sat up right against the cage, looking to work his way back up to his knees. Makhachev keeps the body lock. More knees to defy from Makhachev. Bobby Green's looking up at like the ref, like, you know, like trying to like game his way out of the situation. Like, hey ref, like, he's not doing anything right now, you know, and he's going to be looking up and like that kind of, he's going to try playing that game where he's like, oh, this guy doing nothing on me, even though he can't get out of the situation. And I think Makhachev's going to eventually put one hook in on the back, land a couple of ground and pound shots, flatten Bobby Green out at the end of the first round, land some total strikes. The round's over. Round 2, I think the same thing again. Makhachev lands a couple of big shots on the feet. Bobby Green lands more shots on the feet. Lands a couple of good ones within the first 2 minutes. I think his volume's going to be quite low, so I think he lands about 7 or 8 decent shots on Makhachev in the first 2 minutes. Maybe he throws a head kick, loses balance. Makhachev shoots a takedown. They end up against a cage again. Bobby Green reverses position, ends up separating, trying to fight from there. Then he goes in and they end up in the clinch again, and Makhachev gets a head position, gets an underhook, turns Bobby Green around, pushes him against a cage, lands some knees to defy. Bobby Green then loses hope a little bit. Starts trying to play the game with the referee again, where he's doing a yawning sign, looking at the time like, why is this guy still hugging onto me against the cage? Islam Makhachev knees against a fire, puts a hook in, starts landing some good punches on Bobby Green, eventually puts him down on the canvas a bit more flat, and Bobby Green's going to be on his back, looking up at the clock and think, fuck this, I'm not just going to end up like this at the end of every round. Tries to burst out of it and get back up to his feet, and that's where Makhachev's going to pounce, jump on the back, both hooks in, body triangle. Bobby Green ends up back on the ground. Makhachev ends up putting in a rear naked choke and finishing him with about 30 seconds left in the second round with a rear naked choke submission. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.